cooled it down. I take it. This is a song I wrote called "The Woman I Played." I keep trying, it's hard to find ways to talk about what's going through my mind. If I could say it, I just would. Maybe if I play it, I'd be understood. Because I'm trying feelings down, and while I'm playing, I'm singing and praying. This old world keeps turning round. Make a difference? Can I take a stand? Is it too late to be the woman I planned? If I just do it, no holds barred, like there's nothing to me, no inside, fragile and scarred, because I'm trying. I'm good at rhyming, just not sure of my timing. Is it too late to become the woman I planned? I go out each morning, the sky's still there, the clouds, the trees, the earth, the promise in the air. Flowers greet me, dare me to dare. Keep on trying to show how much I care. So I'll keep trying, like nobody's dying, like I'm never scared. And I'll keep rhyming, have faith in my timing. It's never too late to become the woman you planned. No, it's never too late to become the woman you planned.
Well, for the sake of the recording, my name is MCNAMARA. The title of my message today is Spiritual Intuition. Intuition, that feeling, that gut feeling that you know something. It's not a conscious awareness, it's just that knowing. And we often refer to that gut feeling. I'm going to follow my gut, right? I've got this gut feeling. It's not heartburn. That's a different kind of gut feeling. But it's a gut feeling we're going to follow. We're going to follow that, right? So let me ask you something. If you go on a cruise, let's say, who's the leader of the ship?
Captain.
The captain, right? If you go on a plane trip, who's the leader of the plane?
Pilot.
The pilot. If you plan something, or you have a goal or a destination for yourself in mind, who's the leader of that adventure? You are. But there's somebody else, there's another very important member of the team that we often disregard, when we're talking about destinations or going places. The captain of the ship, the pilot on the plane, they're not going to get anywhere if someone hasn't charted the course. They have to have that navigator, don't they?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, when you drive to a destination, sometimes your intuition tells you which way to go. But most of the time, we use a navigator of some sort. The ship's navigator plots out the course, and if they go off track, they have to correct the course. Same with the pilot. The pilot has the co-pilot, and they have the navigator. Now, back in the day, we used to use paper maps, right? My dad traveled for a living. He literally was a traveling salesman. And when he came home, believe it or not, after driving for 2 weeks all over the southeast United States, what did he want to do? Let's get in the car and go for a drive. He always wanted to go somewhere. So we lived in Louisville, Kentucky. We lived in Memphis, Tennessee. And we'd get in the car and Dad would say, okay, let's take a map. Let's look at the map. He'd open the state map. Where are we going to go that we can get there and home today? And he'd say, okay, we're in Louisville. Let's go to Frankfurt. And he'd show me where Frankfurt was, and my brothers. And he'd say, okay, now map the route. And we'd sit there with a little highlighter. Well, actually, we didn't have highlighters then. We were using crayons. And we'd do a little crayon on the map to where we were going. And that's how I learned. I have a relatively decent sense of direction. I think it's because of my dad and all the traveling we did. When I got older, I always had maps. I think I still have a map of Texas in the car, to be honest with you.
Love them.
And when I got older, and you know what I used all the time was my Thomas Brothers map book. Oh my God, I lived with Thomas Brothers everywhere. And I was so much of a geek about it, somebody'd say, where do you live? Well, if it's in your Thomas Brothers, I'm on page 72, A6. I can tell you my coordinates in the Thomas Brothers map book, because that's what I lived by. So we got used to doing that. And then what happened? Technology came in, right? God bless technology. We have applications for everything. The first thing we started doing with application with navigation was Megan had a navigator on her cell phone. And she would give me directions. So I'd be driving and Megan would be my navigator. And she'd tell me which directions to go. And then we got a little portable GPS. We programmed a little bit of an Irish voice, and his name was Patrick. That was fun, except they used different terms in the United Kingdom, so they'd be telling me to go somewhere or do something, and going, I don't know what he means, because the language was different. English is not always English, right? But here's the caveat. Excuse me. We have all these things. We have the GPS. We have the AAA used to do the triptych. Anybody ever do that? Used to love to do those. And here I'm driving the car and I'm in control, right? We're going to go where I'm going to go. And when I was working, I was a horrible person to travel with, because I was in control and I was on a schedule. I was on a schedule, and we can't stop and look at that, because we've got to be there by this time, because then we've got to leave by that time, and then we've got to be able to get home to get ready to go back to work. Now that I'm retired, I'm loosening up a bit. Like a couple of weeks ago, we stopped at a farm stand and bought a 28-pound watermelon. Be glad I wasn't speaking that week. You would all be eating watermelon right now, I swear. But now I'd like to be a little bit looser. But I'm a control freak. I like to be in control. I like to be the one to lead. I like to be the one that's going to do this or do that. And oh, aren't I fooling myself? Who's leading when the navigator's taking you? I'm just following directions. Who's piloting the ship or the plane? You can say it's the captain or the pilot, but it's the navigator that's giving you the directions, telling you which way you need to go. Now you're at choice whether to follow those directions. And sometimes, unless we've updated our navigator, it'll tell me to make a turn in one direction, and I go, no, that's not right, I'm going to go this way, because I know there's a better way. And we have that. We like to think that we're in control. We like to think that we're in charge. But the fact is, we're not always the ones that are doing the leading. Many, many times, a good leader knows how to follow. A good leader knows, I need to follow those directions. I need to follow in that direction. I need to follow that. And then there's spiritual intuition. What is that spiritual intuition? It's that still small voice inside of us that says, well, I know you think this is the best way to go, but it's really not. I need you to do this instead. And we are at choice. We're at choice as to whether to follow that or not. We have to understand whether we're going to be following that direction or not.
It's the noise, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's
When she hears pounding, she thinks
Oh,
it's children.
pounding out.
Yes. So what happens when we're following this spiritual intuition? We allow ourselves to go in the direction. We listen to this still small voice. What happens when you're driving along the road and all of a sudden you have a little glitch and you don't really know the directions where you're going? You're really relying on that GPS because it's a new uncharted territory for you? And the GPS goes out. Yeah, Maria just said it. Uh-oh. What happens? We kind of get lost. We have to go back to that. I'm going to stop at the gas station and hope that teenager behind the counter knows how to give me directions.
They know.
No, they don't know how to give directions. So you're kind of relying on the good graces of please come back on, right? Well, I'd like to invite you to consider what happens when your spiritual GPS, guided possibilities system, what happens when you become disconnected there? I like to think we have a spiritual GPS. It's that intuition, it's that guided possibilities. And I say possibilities because we have unlimited possibilities in our life. What happens when we become disconnected there? To me, it's like being on this hamster wheel. You get on the wheel, think about ADHD, spiritual ADHD. Attention deficit, I'm not paying attention to source, I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing here. And then HD, hyperactive disorder, I'm hyperactive. So I get on a hamster wheel and I'm going, and I'm going, and I'm going, and I'm going 90 miles an hour, and where am I getting? Nowhere. Because I'm just expending energy doing that. And sometimes we have a tendency to do that. And when that happens, we need to take a breath. Get off the wheel. Reconnect to source, as if we were ever disconnected. Because no matter what you think or try, you will never be disconnected from God. You may get into that attention deficit. You may think, I'm not here, I'm not where I need to be. But you're never really disconnected from God. So how do you get reestablished with that connection? Affirmative prayer. Doing your prayer work. Meditation, just being quiet and still and listening to nothingness. God's in everything. God's in the silence. I absolutely love to sit on my back porch. You've heard me say this before. Just sit there and just listen to the birds. Listen to the quiet. They're building a house behind us. Connie and I get to listen to the Mexican workers and their music and their delightful laughter and bantering when they're doing. And that to me is a very calming, very soothing, entertaining way to spend time. It's those times when you need to reestablish that connection with the One. Reestablish that. When I was in my ministerial studies, and I studied with Centers for Spiritual Living, Ernest Holmes wrote The Science of Mind, and out of this he said, out of any chaos, we can produce harmony. Now you guys have heard me do it. I actually did a rock talk with it. You've heard me talk about it. I picked this up this morning by chance. My rock says harmony. It's kind of funny. Harmony was in the song. Harmony was in our daily reading. Inadvertently, harmony was a word used in my prayer. So that's what you call that divine synchronicity when it comes up. But out of any chaos, we can produce harmony. So do we? Do we look at the chaos and eventually realize we need to let it go, we need to release it, and let harmony reestablish itself in our lives? In the daily word for August, I think it's Katie Kuntz is the one who wrote this article, talks about when she was in 7th grade, she learned to ski. And one of the things they had to learn to do was to get on the ski lift, which was not just a regular bench type thing, it's called the J-hook. And I don't know if anybody has ever seen that, but the J-hook comes behind you and you have to just let it hit right under your legs by your bottom and then just go on. Well, she hadn't done this before and she wanted to control it. I can see myself doing this, honestly. She wanted to control that. So every time the hook would come by, she'd kind of get on there and she'd grab it and she'd try and hold on and she'd miss and she'd end up skiing down from where she was and have to wait in line for the next J-hook to come by. And she stood there for a while and she watched very carefully how all these people would just stand there and release trying to control the hook and just allow. And so she got up and she waited and the hook, she felt the hook and she just relaxed onto it. Released the control of being the one that has to do it and then just put her hand and she learned. And she said that was a metaphor for life. Stop trying to control everything because you can't. I love the old adage, if you can control it and you can fix it, then don't worry about it. If you have no control over it and you can't fix it, why worry? Because it does no good. So worry is a wasted emotion. It's a wasted way of spending time. Another book that we had as one of our texts in ministerial studies was by Raymond Charles Barker. I love Raymond Charles Barker. And he wrote The Power of Decision. And this quote really, really has stuck with me all these years. Your present mind is cause to your world of effects. Everything that happens to you happens because of you. That's kind of a powerful statement. Everything that happens to you happens because of you. You know, we can sit there and go, well, no, I didn't ask to get that cold, or I didn't ask to trip on that step. But I tripped on the step because I really wasn't paying attention to where I was going. And maybe I got the cold because I wasn't as careful about washing my hands or staying away from people who I knew I might get infected by. There's a law of circulation. You know, there's spiritual laws. One of them is the law of circulation. And we have many, many different ways of expressing it. The Buddhists would say it's karma. What you put out comes back to you. We say, whatever you give, you receive. Joel Osteen, years and years ago, I happened to catch a little version of one of his talks. And in this talk, he talked about a little 4 or 5-year-old boy who was hiking with his dad. And they got separated. And the little boy was just frightened. And he was standing at the edge of the precipice to this huge canyon. And he sat there and screamed out, "Help me!" And he heard a voice coming back, "Help me!" And he said, "Stop that!" And he came back, "Stop that!" He said, "You're scaring me! You're scaring me!" And the voice came back. And he finally said, "You're being stupid!" And the voice came back, "You're being stupid!" Finally, his father found him, and the kid was just frantic, and his dad was frantic, and they reunited. And the little boy recounted this story to his dad, and his dad said, "That's just an echo." The little boy didn't understand the concept of an echo because he was so young. He said, "That's just an echo. But son, that's like life. Whatever you say out there is going to come back to you, so be careful what you say." You said, "You're being stupid," and what happened? Life told you, no, you're being stupid. And we have to remember that. And you know, that was a little 4-year-old kid learning a life lesson. But we still need to remember that and learn that life lesson ourselves. What we go out there and say to ourselves or to others is going to come back to us. You know, if you're unkind to someone, expect some unkindness back, whether from them or at some other point in your life. That's going to come back at you. We have to make sure that we remember to follow the good. Follow the directions that we're supposed to. Let go of those negativities. And follow what we know in our heart to be true.
Sorry.
Another country spoken.
There's a lot of bumping today.
Yeah, there's a lot of extraneous noises today that we don't normally get. But we have to remember to follow that. It's kind of like that old game, Follow the Leader. Remember when we play Follow the Leader as kids and somebody would be walking around and we had to walk behind them? Everybody wanted to be the leader because you got to do the funny stuff. But guess what? As the follower, you got to do it too. So when you're remembering that spiritual intuition, that built-in guided possibility systems that we have, remember that you're not just always the leader. every leader has to follow something. I mean, name a world leader anywhere, and I'll tell you that they have a set of constructs that they have to follow. The new Pope follows the constructs of the Catholic Church. In most cases, the president follows the Constitution. You know, in my old job, I was a leader. I was over several different teams of people. I had a boss. I followed my boss's instructions. I worked for the federal government. I followed the rules and regulations set forth. In our own lives, we follow a set of tenets that we believe to be true. We said them when we did our 5 affirmations. God is. We believe that and follow that. I am. We can acknowledge that. I think it, I pray it, I live it. So as leaders, we still follow. So we have to remember that a good leader follows. A good spiritual intuition is something we follow. And you know, just like a GPS system, if you listen carefully, you know, what happens when you're driving along and you make the wrong turn? Your GPS will tell you, make the next legal U-turn. Or they'll give you directions to make you go back the way you were supposed to go. And I think all of us can acknowledge that internally, if we're doing something, and maybe we make that left turn ideologically, and we feel that icky feeling, that's the internal guidance system saying, make the next legal U-turn. Go back the way you know you're supposed to do. And that's spiritual intuition. I thank you. Namaste.
Great.